morning and welcome to the 2015 Measures Under Consideration Open Forum. Today's meeting will be moderated with all lines placed on mute. The meeting is being recorded and then subsequently uploaded to the CMS website for future viewing. The meeting facilitator will send the link to the recording in a follow-up email. Written questions will be received via the live meeting Q&A link. Due to the time constraints, any questions that we don't have a chance to respond via this live meeting will receive a documented response via a FAQ document that will be uploaded to the CMS website for future viewing. I'll now pass the call over to Michelle Jeppe. Ma'am, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. And again, thank you for joining us for CMS's Measures Under Consideration, or MUC 2015 Open Forum. Earlier this week, we kicked off the Measures Under Consideration cycle for 2015. On Tuesday, we provided a high-level summary of the pre-rulemaking statute, CMS's quality strategy. We also shared lessons learned and had a demo of JIRA 2015 project. We also heard about milestone dates and future meetings for this year's MUC cycle. If you missed the kickoff session on Tuesday, it was recorded and will be available on CMS's website as a download in the near future. The focus of today's open forum is to give our stakeholders the opportunity to see another live demo of JIRA. Specifically, we'll cover how to modify a candidate measure, submit a question, and feedback within JIRA. We should have time today to cover audience-generated questions as well. And as our moderator has said, if we don't have time to get to your question, we'll add it to our FAQ document and provide a response, which will be available to you on CMS's website. Next slide. And as our moderator said, all audience lines will be muted. And if you're having technical difficulties, you can access the slide presentation, which is available in the appointment. Next slide, please. This slide just represents the topics we're going to cover today. Moving right along. And just as a reminder, the guidelines for proposing a measure. By program, a measure only has to go through the list once to be considered for rulemaking. The exceptions are if a measure has been on the list before but is now being considered for a different program. So in other words, you are expanding the programs that your measure is in. You would need to submit the measure again through JIRA. If the measure has changed, the numerator, denominator, exclusion would be examples of a change. You would need to submit your measure again. Only Medicare programs that adopt measures through rulemaking may submit measures for the MUC list. If MAP input is desired for other programs or measures, they may be reviewed at an off-cycle meeting. Next slide. Okay. This is just a quick review of what we talked about on Tuesday's meeting of our milestones. New measures are being accepted starting tomorrow through July 1st. Next Friday is our priority setting webinar to educate our stakeholders about program needs and priorities. Hopefully you already have this on your calendar. If not, my email address is located at the end of the slide deck. Please send me an email, and I will be happy to get you that appointment. As I had said, JIRA closes on July 1st and will remain open for another 2 weeks until July 15th to accept your comments. Prior to the July 15th date, and actually prior to any of our milestone dates, I'm going to send friendly reminders just to keep these dates on your radar. For the August 5th meeting, that's a federal-only stakeholder meeting to preview the list and, again, gain consensus. At this meeting, it will be critical for CMS to learn of any federal stakeholder objections to avoid after-clearance changes. The ultimate goal of the August 5th federal meeting is to seek approval of the proposed measures prior to commencement of clearance, which is scheduled to begin on August 10th, just a short 5 days after our August 5th meeting. CMS does strive for a clean, transparent clearance process for all federal stakeholders involved. Again, August 10th is the start of clearance, and that's when our measures under consideration list will start making its rounds to the various CMS components, including HHS, O&B, and all of CMS components. Again, the hope is that the same folks that are attending the August 5th preview meeting will also be reviewing the clearance document that starts on August 10th. And now I am going to turn it over to Vince Brown with Battelle, who's going to do our live demonstration of JIRA.
Hello. Let me get the computer changed here. I'm going to walk back through, for anyone that might not have been on the call Tuesday, real quick, just log out and show you what the login screen looks like. This is one of the feedback comments that our programmers had mentioned from previous years. People would time out or log out and not know it. So they've added this yellow banner at the top. If you did log out and didn't mean to, you'll see that banner. So that's telling you need to log back in. So if you're on this call, you should have already received your username and password for JIRA. The first time you enter that in on this screen, then if you click the button that says remember my login, you should never need to type that password again as long as you're using that same computer. It will remember you. So I'm clicking login. And this is like a JIRA master screen here, which has dozens, if not hundreds, of different projects in it. So the first place you want to go is up to projects. And mine is preloaded because I've been working on this, but if you don't see 2015 measures under consideration, you can scroll here to view all projects, and then you would scroll down to where it says quality measures section and find 2015. So you click on that guy and it'll take you to today's topic, which is the summary page for measures under consideration. It has a nice summary here that describes again what Michelle just covered. At the bottom of this summary is a very important web link that takes you out to the CMS public website for pre-rulemaking, including measures under consideration. And that has several important documents. I'll just hit that link real fast so you can see it. At the bottom, you'll see the download section. And as Michelle mentioned, if questions crop up today or later that we don't have time to answer or we don't know the answer, we will post them to this FAQs document and periodically update that. So if you don't get your question answered today, check back on that FAQs, and we hope that it will have been answered at that time. Okay, close this screen. We're back at the summary page. We covered on Tuesday the process of submitting a new candidate measure. As Michelle said, it could also be a revised measure from a previous cycle or a measure that has not been changed but is being added to other programs beyond the programs that are currently using it. But the main thing we think of this for is for new measures being submitted as candidates. So to start, you would go to this yellow Create Issue button, and once you click that, you'll see a new box pops up here. It's reminding you at the top that you are under the 2015 Measures Under Consideration project. And here's where you do your initial routing right here under Issue Type. So it defaults to measure submission. I mean, we anticipate 80 or 90% of what people use this for will be to submit new candidate measures. But we have added 3 other issue types: question, modify a 2015 candidate, or send feedback. So I'll just walk through those real quick, and then we should have time for questions afterward. Once you click the question issue type, the screen will change. And again, under each data box, there is screen guidance that's trying to describe what it is that we're looking for in this field. Also, just as it was on Tuesday, if a data field has a red asterisk beside it, that signifies that it is a required field. So you need to put something in there, or JIRA will not accept or will not allow you to create that issue, or in this case, question. So you would begin by specifying which program or programs you represent. You click the drop-down. It will show you the list. Now, this screen happens to be limited, and at the bottom you'll notice it said there are 8 more options. Continue typing to refine further. So my favorite program, Skilled Nursing Facility, is not in here. So I'm going to start typing SKI, and there are my 2 programs that did not fit on the screen. And you can also pick a second or third or however many programs apply to your question. If you click one by mistake, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Then you click him again, click the X beside the name, and it will disappear. So once you've picked at least one program, then you go on to the next. We're asking you for a brief summary here. So that's just a few words that describe what you're doing, and then this again is to help people that are analyzing these questions to group them and sort them and try and answer them most efficiently. So we're asking you for a brief summary. We're also asking you to pick from the drop-down what type of question is it, about the interface, the specifications, the supporting information such as a measure information form or some of the National Quality Forum NQF documents that might accompany your measure. You might have a training question or a data request or other. So you can pick whichever one of those applies. And then here's the main box I imagine that you'll use, and that is to ask your question. So you put your question there. You'll notice the primary and secondary contact are both required fields. So we're asking again for last name, first name, affiliation, phone number, and your email address if you are the one submitting the question or the primary contact associated with it. If there is a secondary contact, put it there. If not, etc. If there is no secondary person, you could put NA. We found it's always nice to have a second person to ask the question, to respond to, or if we don't understand your question, it's nice to have those. So the more you can send us, the better there. I've filled all these. So now I'm done. I'm going to click the Create button here. And you'll see it spinning there. That's JIRA's sign that it's thinking. It's checking to make sure. And look here, it says Issue 159. A brief summary goes here, has been successfully created. So that green checkbox means you're good. And you can go on to your next issue or whatever you want. So I'll go through the other two here in a minute. The difference between question and feedback is simply this. We anticipated that a question is one where you would expect an answer. A feedback is similar, except for feedback we're thinking those are the kinds of things where you may or may not necessarily need an answer or a reply back. So that's the only difference. We expect that people may, put the same type of request in both tables, and we'll be checking those very frequently as we go ahead. So I'll show the feedback here real quick. It's really the same, the only difference being it's called feedback type, and here's your box for feedback. Now I'll pick a program. I'll put a summary. I'll pick a feedback type. And I'm going to leave the feedback blank just so you can see what happens when JIRA rejects a create request. So I don't know if you're watching, but at the bottom there's a red type that says feedback is required. It won't let me leave that blank. So here is my feedback. Now when I click create, it's thinking, and look, there's another issue has been successfully created. So that's in the database now, and an analyst on my team or someone at CMS should be reading that and processing it. So the last one to demonstrate is the modified 2015 candidate measure. This function was initiated through feedback from the 2014 muck cycle, where numerous folks remarked that the measures seemed like they just kept changing even after they'd gone through review cycles. And there are, workflows here where we need the muck measure under consideration a coordinator and first and second level reviewers from each program. And CMS management then reviews these measures. And all while this was going on, many changes were submitted and things would be sent around by email. So the point of this function is to rather centralize or make one place where all the changes get funneled through and processed, so that if two conflicting changes are suggested, those can be reconciled offline before we actually change the measure. So that's the purpose of this. The other purpose, and Michelle may want to add more later, the other purpose of this, as I understand it, is so that all changes are traceable. so that if someone says, well, who said to change this? You know, we're not in the position of needing to go out and search through email and ask everyone who might have changed something in a certain way. It's all in one table, and we can view the history very efficiently. That's the purpose of it. Again, you're asked to relate your request to whatever program or programs you're representing. Here's the title. It is a required field. It will be nice if you use the title that you used when you originally submitted the candidate measure. We're also asking, again, just for help in sorting and sifting these records that you apply. So I'm going to just type it in here as a demonstration. We're also asking, as we did on the measure submission form, that you provide a program ID number if there is such a thing. You know, maybe it's ACO-15, just to pick one at random. When you submit your measure, it is assigned what they call a MUC ID, unique for 2015. And so it would be nice if you know that number to put it in here. That will just help us to relate your request with the existing measure record. I don't know what form those will be right now. I'm just making one up. So here's the box where you would type your proposed change. And again, as specific as you can, say we want to change the denominator from all patients 18 and over to all patients 35 and over. Or we want to change the exclusions. We need to add 5 more exclusions. So here they are. If you put that change in there, then that's what will be pushed forward for review and processing. Same primary contact and secondary contact. Again, those are both required. And I'm going to save time by not typing all the affiliation, phone number, and email, but obviously that would be very helpful. So we're going to click Create. And I got the green check mark at the top. So that tells me that my request for changing a already submitted measure has gone into the database, and hopefully that'll be moving forward. Again, we have to work out the workflow, how long it will take for the actual measure record to be changed. Obviously, there's a lot of variables going on there with multiple people looking at it and working with a measure, particularly when one measure may be submitted for 2, 3, or more programs. So I'm looking at my list. I think that's all that I had intended to cover for the demonstration. I did want to point out one thing. You may see things on your screen as we go through this demonstration that look funny as far as the data that we've already submitted. That was put in there for beta test purposes. These are not real measure data. So if you see something that looks like a measure but it's a little off, I just wanted to let you know this afternoon we're going to be deleting all of that and start with a fresh slate tomorrow, May 1st, when JIRA opens for you and everyone that's an authorized user to start submitting measures and submitting the other issue types. So with that said, at the top of your live meeting should be a Q&A button, and maybe people have already been using it. But if you have any questions for me or Michelle, we'll do our best to answer them here in this open forum. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Vince, for that presentation. As Vince said, I would like to invite everyone to enter their questions at this point. We'll give folks another minute or two to formulate those, and if we don't get any questions, we will end the call early, and then if you think of something afterwards, you can always feel free to submit your questions after the fact. You have our contact information available to you in the slide deck.
Michelle, this is Vince again. While we're waiting, I thought it might be good. I'll jump back to the CMS pre-rulemaking website real quick and open this file here called Measures Under Consideration Template 2015. Again, if you were on the call Tuesday, this may look familiar, but if you were not on that kickoff call, here's a Word template that you're welcome to download before you submit your measure. It allows you offline to see what kinds of information is wanted, and then the column here says add your content here. So our beta test users found this Word file very helpful in collecting their paperwork and other various, electronic forms of information. It sped up their process of typing once they actually got on the JIRA website. And I don't remember if Michelle said today, but I know she said on Tuesday, JIRA does not let you save a partially completed record. Once you start, you've got to work it clear through to the Create button. JIRA does not let you save and come back. Unfortunately, we asked, and that's just not something JIRA is set up to do. So that's the other reason this form is very helpful.
We did have a question, Vince, that came in that someone had asked to submit a question. How do we do that? Is there a way that you could show folks online by clicking the Q&A tab?
Okay.
That might be helpful, I think. And then while he's doing that, there was another question that came in that said, if you don't see the project in JIRA yet, will it open on May 1st, or do we need to request access? Well, at this point, you would pretty much know if you have access because that user credentials would be sent to you via an email. You won't see the 2015 Measures Under Consideration project in JIRA until tomorrow when it opens on May 1st.
So what I did was went to the button at the top of my live meeting that says Q&A, and type the question in the box at the top, and then you press enter, and then the question goes to our moderator, and she should be sending it to Michelle.
There was another question that just came in. Who can see changes to a measure? I'm thinking that the question is there that you would be able to, if you submitted the change in JIRA, you would be able to see your MUC ID generated and what that change is. It's not until after that review and approval of the change is accepted that you'll see it in the original MUC ID request. Hopefully that clarifies for you.
Yeah, I think the process will be when people fill out the form that says request a change to an already submitted 2015 measure, then those will be grouped by program and by measure within a program, and so that we can see the requested changes and reconcile any conflicts that might be there. And then if everyone agrees, then someone on our team will make the change to the actual measure record, and that will be documented as completed. The change request will have been documented as resolved, and then the change that was made in the actual measure record will be documented in the comments trail at the bottom of that. Here's who changed it, here's when, and here's why. Because we could see records might be changed, then changed back. That's just the nature of the process.
All right, and someone else had just asked the question, can anyone request a change to a measure or only the steward? Anyone can request a change to a measure. You would just go in the way that Vince demonstrated and submit your change request. As long as you have access to JIRA and you have user credentials for the 2015 MUC project, anyone can request a change. Right, just looking through the questions, we are starting to get some more in. There's a question that came in. I don't think our measures are quick ready for this year's MUC list. you still anticipate that the muck list process will be annual and occur again next year? Yes. It's part of the 3014 statute of pre-rulemaking. So, yes, we will start the same process this time next year. There was another question that came in to clarify my answer about modifying a measure in JIRA. The question was, I'm sorry, the screen moved. I lost my place. Hold on. Once you have entered a measure record into JIRA, you cannot modify or change it. You most certainly can go back and make a change. Maybe we could go back, Vince, and demonstrate again those fields in JIRA that you would fill out to modify a measure. It would be helpful. So this, after you make your initial entry of your submission and you realize, oh my goodness, I need to make a modification to the measure title, this is what you would do. Yes, there's always an opportunity to change.
So once you're in JIRA and you're on the 2015 measures under consideration project, then you would go back here and modify a candidate measure. And this is where you would enter what change you want to make. And this way, all the changes pertaining to that measure can be tracked and checked and confirmed and verified with each other and with, the people who need to see if we have two different respondents asking to change the same field in a different way, then I imagine our plan will be to get them talking to each other or conferring so that then they can decide, which change do you want to accept. If someone who submitted a measure says, oh, I made a mistake, I typed the NQF number wrong, that's fairly routine, and I can't anticipate that would take very long to resolve. But this would be the form you would use to modify a 2015 candidate measure. And as before, when you're finished, you just press create. One thing we don't know is how many changes will come in after a measure has been submitted. They may be few and far between, or there may be many changes coming from all directions, in which case this request form, the back-end table in the database will be very helpful in sorting and deciding how to actually change the measure.
Okay. Some additional questions that have come in regarding, Vince has said that we have a submission template. The reason we put the submission template together is so that you could gather all of your specific data points that you'll need to use as you input your measure submission into JIRA. That submission template is available on the CMS website, which is the link that's provided in the slide deck. It's noted in there as a submission template, so you can find that document there and fill it out with all of your specific data points and then cut and paste the data into JIRA.
I think the functionality of the template is best for those free text fields where you're asked to, provide your unintended consequences of this measure if adopted, or what is the evidence that your measure can be operationalized. To me, a yes/no question, of which there are quite a few, or provide the year that this was NQF endorsed, those types of measures, it may or may not be worthwhile for you to put that in a template and then mechanically paste it into JIRA. But for the free text fields, that's where we think it has the greatest value. That's what our beta test users told us anyway. And the other advantage of the offline template file in Word is that it shows you basically what's in JIRA. It shows you the same field labels, the same screen guidance. It also shows you which fields are required or not, and it also shows the contents of every drop-down. So you can scroll through that, again, offline, and then when you do log into JIRA, you're ready to go. It should be more efficient.
Thank you, Vince. There's another question that came in. Would measures without complete MAT/HQMF specification but in development and on path to completion be worth submitting? I would say I would submit your measure, even if that data is not available, and then from a program perspective, they would review and determine if it would be acceptable to move on with including that measure on the measures under consideration list. Then someone is asking if we could demo the MUC list assignees. So if you could show folks where they log on to see what measures are assigned to them.
Yes, I can go through that. I want to just, if I could jump back to your question about MAT number and HQMF. I will point out too in the JIRA design, it says if ECQM, enter the MAT number. So if it's not an ECQM, maybe they all are, but if it's not an ECQM, that's that won't have or doesn't have to have an MAT number. Same with the HQMF, and it does give you a yes/no option. So that tells me that it would be okay to answer no. Now, what happens after it gets submitted? That's someone else's question, but I just wanted to let the caller know that. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of here, and what you said, Michelle, was show me the issues that are assigned to me.
That's correct.
So this is a topic that's for people who might be reviewing. There are different permissions and user profiles in JIRA, and so I'll just document over here on the home page for JIRA. You would click on the word issues, and then these are standard reports that JIRA has provided across the top here. All of these are hyperlinks under the word issues. All issues unresolved, and over here is assigned to me. Now this is using my profile, so I think it has quite a few. And again, this is the so-called dummy data or the beta test data only. So I told a group on Tuesday, I hope this doesn't show up on the front page of the Washington Post tomorrow from someone's screen capture. But this would show you a list of all the measures that are assigned to you, and it gives you here's your MUC ID for 2015, and here's the title of your measure, its status in JIRA. I'll scroll to the right and show you the day it was created, the date when it was last updated. The reporter, that's JIRA's word for the submitter who actually entered that document, and it's keyed again off of your JIRA username profile. So your reporter is there. Once it comes in, it's initially assigned to myself, and so I and my team will initially assign it to whoever's going to be reviewing it. And then when we've completed our review, we send it to Michelle, and then she reviews it and sends it on to the first and second level program reviewers within CMS. And any one of those reviewers can suggest changes and can call the reporter or submitter and hopefully straighten out any difficulties. Hopefully they'll come in clean and complete, and they'll be good to go. This column here shows you the components. That's a JIRA word for CMS program. On the interface, sometimes it got changed to say CMS program, but anytime you see the word components, that's just JIRA lingo for your program. So again, it shows you which programs are associated with that measure. Now you can sort by any of these columns. I just clicked on the word components at the top, and you see the little arrow showed up. So now I'm getting by the first measure, it's alphabetical. So that's the way I can group my assigned measures. I believe you can customize this display. Again, this is not something I've done a whole lot of, but I believe you can, if you have a attribute that you really want to look at, I think you can pick that out. Again, I don't want to take time to go through that. But so when you click on that measure, no one asked me this, but when you click on that measure, then a display will pop up showing you that this was actually a question type, and here's the test data. So you can actually see what was that question. I'm going to navigate back. You find one that's a measure. Here's a measure submission. So this is a little bit longer display. And again, this is showing each of the fields down the left in JIRA for a new measure submission. It was endorsed in 2012. It's next up in 2016. So I can skim through here and look at the way that this submitter submitted all the data items for that. I hope I answered that question, Michelle.
Yeah, I think you did, Vince. Thank you. There was another question that had come in that says, who approves change requests? Vince kind of alluded to some of that in answering this last question. There's various different levels of review and approval based on the program, number of programs that the measure is being submitted for. For more information regarding JIRA workflow, you can refer to the CMS issue tracker JIRA user guide that's also located on the CMS website as a download. Again, the workflows for JIRA are included in the back of that document. There is another question also that came in. Given the availability of the template, what's the benefit of using the Excel spreadsheet template measure developers have received from CMS? How would the two templates compare and contrast in terms of their functionality or use in prepping materials for entry into JIRA? Vince, if you could take folks out to this submission template that we have available on the CMS website and show them that form. This is the recommended form that we're using when submitting measures. If you have any old Excel spreadsheet templates, the data fields do not map to what's currently in JIRA.
Okay, I was on mute. So I'm back at the CMS pre-rulemaking public website, and down at the bottom, we did for data reasons here at Battelle create an Excel predecessor to this Word template. We felt for just mechanical and document handling reasons that Word was more amenable to this type of offline storage. So that's why we converted it from Excel to Word. Now I've downloaded it twice. Excuse me. So as Michelle said, we did distribute to the stakeholders who helped to define JIRA this year, and there were representatives there both of the submitting organizations and the data reviewers or evaluators who will be working in July, August, and through clearance. You know, there was lengthy discussions of the 2014 and prior processes and lengthy deliberations on which fields do we need, which fields must be required, what should the drop-down choices be. So this form came out of that process, and like Michelle said, there were Excel predecessors to this, but those are all outdated because, you know, we would find things, or through beta testing there would be certain refinements, questions got dropped or changed or moved around. So this is the one to use.
And then if you could just sort of walk through the layout, Vince, of the form, that might be helpful. What's actually seen here?
I'm assuming you can see it okay on your screen.
Yes.
It's larger here a little bit. Right. So the row number is just for convenience of reference. JIRA is not able to accommodate row numbers on the actual user interface. We asked that question several times, and the answer was always sorry. But the row numbers there just for your convenience and ours in discussing questions, in a Q&A format. The field label, again, is as it appears in JIRA. The required column here just shows whether it has a red asterisk in JIRA or not. And if it is required, you have to put something in there or a JIRA will not accept the record. And if you don't know or can't obtain the information, we're asking you to put in NA just as a placeholder value. The screen guidance column is again verbatim as it appears on JIRA. The data form just describes whether it's a select one or a multi-select or a free text. Those are the main data forms that you see. The possible values are listed for all, but there are three or four of the drop-downs that are huge. Registries, for example, I believe has 126 entries, and we thought rather than clutter up the middle of the Word document, I'll show you when we get down here. What area of specialty? That's another one. Several stakeholders sent us different specialties. They felt we didn't have enough specialties represented, so we're, I think, almost at 100 different medical specialties that you can choose from. I just put here see Appendix A22 for list choices. So if I go down to the bottom of this document, here are all the registries. This is A22. That A22 just corresponds to the item number, and that says which area of specialty best fits the measure. So again, that will help you choose it. If you wanted to pick, if I were filling this out and I was an endocrinologist, I would go back up and I would look for 22, and I'm going to paste endocrinology right in there. Now I'm ready to go. So the three that are area of specialty, which registry, for those for which registry is the data source, and the third is the measure stewards list. Those, again, got kind of lengthy and unwieldy, so we put those in appendices for your reference. And then, as I said, the column here to the right is where we hope you'll, especially for the free text, be adding your content here. And you can type as long as you want. The field will keep expanding. And then, so the thought being, when you get to JIRA and you get down to the rationale for how this measure will add to the program, you can grab it, copy it, go back to JIRA, and paste it in. And there you're ready. So I hope that was helpful.
Yes, the recommendation is to use, there was a question that came in about an Excel spreadsheet from last week. We recommend that you use the spreadsheet, not the spreadsheet, I'm sorry, the document that Vince was just demoing. And then also, Vince, while we're here, could you show folks the comments field and how we are planning to use that this year?
Oh, sure. I should have thought of that. We're back under measure submission now. So I went to that screen, and every drop-down, or almost all the drop-downs, have a choice of other. That is, if our drop-down list does not contain the appropriate information for your measure, then you're welcome to enter another. And let me find a drop-down here. It's not a yes, no. I'm trying to find a good one here. Okay. In what setting was this measure tested? I'm going to scroll to the bottom. And my setting, my setting is not among this list. I've checked it high and low, and I just can't find it. And I've got to put a setting in there because it's a required field. So I need to choose other. So I'm going to select other, and the direction in there says enter in comments at far bottom of this screen. So what you are asked to do is scroll here to where it says comments, and I'm going to put setting, veteran, hospital. Okay, then I'm going to scroll back up to where I was. And now I'm going to go on with the other. If my level of analysis is not among this list, I can choose Other. I'll scroll back down here and say, example. So I will actually put I'm putting in here for the benefit of the data analysts, I'm putting in here the setting, which is like the label or the data field that I'm talking about, and then I'm entering the actual data that I want to use instead of what's in the drop-down list. So we try to, for every drop-down list, we try to give you an escape hatch to specify the other.
So if you, just to elaborate on what's been said, if you select Other and then for some reason don't put that information there in the comments section, one of us will be giving you a call to clarify what you meant by Other there. And the hope is, once we get those other suggestions, we can add to the drop-down list with whatever it is that you're saying was not available to you as selection.
Right. By popular demand, once we've seen it X number of times, we would want to add it, so save everyone time.
Correct. And then someone had also asked the question regarding user credentials for JIRA. Are they the same as last year? You can certainly try to log on. I don't know how long, and Vince, you may know the answer to this, how long JIRA saves your username and password without having to re-enter a new one. How many times, every 30 days does it ask you to reset your password? Do you recall from conversations?
I do not, though I remember. I thought there was a fair number of carryovers from 14 to 15, and the AI, the contractor who's doing our JIRA work, I didn't hear him say, well, all the new 15 users will need new credentials. I never heard him say that.
Right. So if you've tried to log on to JIRA with last year's credentials and for whatever reason it does not work, please refer to the user guide. It has a specific area in there that talks about how to revise your user credentials. And then also, Vince, if someone had asked the question about reporting in JIRA, could you demonstrate how you would run a report by program? And just so everyone knows on this call, our next open forum is scheduled for May 12th. During that session, we did plan to dive more into JIRA's reporting capabilities and how to set up a dashboard and that sort of thing. So if you don't get your question answered today, or if you think of other questions between now and then, you will have another opportunity.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was saying beautiful things and no one heard them. Use summary to go back here to this main page. Issues is where you would go, as we showed, to look for specific measures. And you can also use issues to look for questions or suggested changes or feedback items. And then components, again, is that word that JIRA likes, and we wish we could change that to say CMS program, but it doesn't. But once you click that components, this is offering you a quick report, and it's showing you the CMS program, and there are about 23 or 24, depending on how you count them. And then this also shows the lead person's name here to the right, just for your reference. So I don't remember how many of these have beta test data in there, and now we're seeing. I just happened to choose Hospital Readmission Reduction Program. I see Grace's name as the lead there, and then this is sorting them by unresolved versus updated recently. So this is showing me that there are 6 measures in the beta test database that are associated with this one program. Now, the same measure may be associated with multiple programs. We wouldn't see that here, but this is just letting you, if you want to see everything that's been submitted for hospital readmission, there it is. And again, you can click on any one of these, see the details, see its status, when was it created and updated. Here's where the reviewers will be able to move it forward or send it back. You add your comments here, assign it to a different person. You can read and review the data there. So that's the kind of report you have. You can always use your back button to go back to the list, or your back button to go to the list of components, and back to the summary.
Someone had asked the question, where can I find the user guide and FAQ documents? They, again, are located on the CMS website, which I will be sending out the link to everyone on this call afterwards. Other documents that can be found. Vince, if you could go to the CMS website for us and just show everyone.
Here's what the user guide looks like. Has it loaded yet? It's a 2 meg file.
Pardon?
It's a 2 megabyte file. I'm not sure how long it's taking. Can you see it on the display yet?
Yes.
There's the user guide. It's around 80 or 100 pages. It has a table to find what you're looking for, creating a new measure, modifying a current measure. There's the question feedback, and then various appendices that have workflow in them, approval chart, a blank template, and then a sample completed template just for your reference. So that's where the user guide is. Was there anything else, Michelle, you wanted me to document on that CMS website?
Yeah, if you could just show folks what we have out there. We recently added the link to JIRA.
Here's the FAQs page. Again, we'll use the JIRA interface. If the same question is being asked multiple times, we would surely want to add it to the FAQs to save everyone time.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of how the FAQ document is sort of laid out, there's a couple different sections within the frequently asked questions document. One of the sections involves the milestones, the up-and-coming events, important dates to keep in mind. So there's another section for measures under consideration events, another section for measures application partner events or MAP events. And then there is another section to the FAQ document that is specifically JIRA related, since that's displayed there. So again, we'll be taking the questions that were submitted today and adding them to this document and providing written responses.
Oh, I haven't seen this before. There's the link to JIRA right above there. So if you bookmark this page, you'll be all set.
Yes. And then can you show folks what else we have out there in terms of we have other prior measures under consideration cycles along with the MAP reports that coincide with each of those measures under consideration cycles available to you as downloads. Like if you go to the 2011, 2012.
It's still downloading.
Okay. It's a big file.
I just picked the most recent one, Michelle.
Okay, perfect.
So now you can see the December 2014 MUC list, because one of the question items, if your measure has been, it was on a prior MUC list, but it has been changed significantly, or you're adding it to a different program, one of our questions was, what is its old MUC ID, and how are you supposed to know that? Well, you can go out to this site and open the there's the December 1st, 2014 muck list report. And there you can find your measure. They're listed by programs and by measure. And there's the muck ID. The first one is X3719, just to give an example.
And then based on input from NQF's MAP multi-stakeholder work group, you can find the recommendations from those meetings that occurred this past December and January as well.
Right. So I'm just trying to pick one here. This is so you can see in this reference the MUC and MAP, MAP and MUC are all in the same WinZip archive. And again, we do ask several questions. If it has been through the MAP or Measures Application Partnership in prior years, we're asking several fairly detailed questions about which programs, which work groups, which years did it go through the different phases of MAP, and then what was the final decision from each of those years. So these are all things that the new MAP work group wants to know before they decide. I'm just scrolling through here. I don't think I picked a good document to start with for an example. But,
so as you can see, there's a lot of resources and reference material available right at your fingertips, all sort of in one place, the one-stop shop that I had mentioned before. Also, if you log on to JIRA in the summary section, which you just saw there behind the screen that Vince has up here now, I added some language in there regarding what the caveats are to submitting measures. We also put the link to the CMS website right there at the summary page. If you scroll down a little bit, Vince, you can show them and click there and go right to the CMS website and get the resources that we were just showing you. And just in the interest of time, we are running out of time here for today's session. But again, if you think of other questions between now and the next open forum, which is scheduled for May 12th at 11 Eastern Daylight Time, please feel free to send us any questions or submit your questions via JIRA starting tomorrow. I'd be happy to respond to you. Again, JIRA opens tomorrow, May 1st. We have another series in our session scheduled for next Friday. The content and focal point for that meeting is to share CMS's program-specific priorities and needs. So the topics of discussion will be a little bit different than these last two sessions. Our hope is to not be repetitive with the information that we're sharing during each one of these sessions, but to provide you new information with each meeting during our series. So anyway, that's all I really had today. And Vincent, I'll just ask you if you have anything else you'd want to share before we bring it to a close.
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate your time and attention. Talk to you again next week.